Hello! Now that we have finally survived the onslaught of otaku consumerism that was all of the stuff I got in Japan, we're gonna start talking about, like what I actually did in Japan. And we're gonna go kind of like subject by subject. And we'll look at some pictures and maybe some short videos and such that I shot while I was there. Seems like fun. I don't know. We'll get into it. Starting with this shot of Japan, the streets of Shinjuku at probably around 6 a.m. The pinkness of the sky from the sunrise, these once busy streets deserted, as all the good boys and girls of Japan are still in bed. What would we be doing so early in the morning? Well, I put it in the title, so you already know. We're going to Comiket, baby. So what is Comiket? I would actually recommend. Um, there's a very good documentary on YouTube called The Secret World of Comiket. That was put out by the NHK's kind of like international division. It's about 35 minutes long, but it's got some really good shots of kind of the whole scale of it, setting up and such. And I actually met one of the artists that's featured in this video. I saw her booth, and I was like, oh yeah, I saw the documentary. Anyways, so I would check this out. If you don't feel like watching a 35-minute video, basically the gist is it's a gigantic convention held twice a year in Tokyo. It gets about 200,000 people a day, usually about 500,000 people total over the 3 days. And it's not like most conventions where, it's kind of more about like activities and such and panels and guest speakers, none of that. Instead, the focus is almost exclusively on selling dojinshi. Dojinshi being, in the broadest sense, just anything self-published. Anything that you made yourself is fair game for Comiket. So that can include music, games, software, photo collections, like a lot of cosplayers go and then sell photo books of themselves. There's like really crazy stuff out there, like people who are big enthusiasts of radar dish systems. This was a new one to me that I saw this time at Comiket. They put together photo books of that and little write-ups and specifications. Train fans, motorcycle fans, military enthusiasts, just any sort of otaku type interest, anything that you can be a hobbyist of and take a particular fascination with and kind of produce something around it, you can sell a Comiket. But the overwhelming majority is comics, the thin books. I've got a whole bunch of them. I'm surprised I don't have any at hand. I have so many now, I figured there would just be one to show you. One second. Let me show you a thin book. So this is what's mostly sold at Comiket. Are thin books of usually maybe 20 or so pages containing comics. And these are all independently published. They're not part of any larger project necessarily. They're not serialized. They may never wind up in any other form. They're just sold for these days for pretty cheap prices, and if you don't get them then, you're likely never going to see them again. That's the reality of Comiket. And the way I'm going to describe our activities at Comiket is going to make it seem like some hellish war zone where you're just throwing all of your mental health and physical health away in order to buy a bunch of thin books. But it doesn't have to be that. I really do think that if you're in Japan and it happens to be Comiket time, that it really is worth checking out. You can do it pretty casually. If you're going to kind of just go to see what it's like and you don't have any particular mission of getting any particular thing, I would recommend trying to show up at around noon. The event opens at 10 a.m., but there's so many people lined up for the event that if you show up before noon, you'll still have to like wait in line. So I'd say around noon is kind of when it starts getting easy to get in. We're a little more hardcore than that, as I said. This shot at 6 a.m., we're aiming to take the first train down to the Tokyo big site so that we can line up well in advance and to get near the head of the line, because when the doors open, it takes so long just for the sheer amount of people to get into the convention that if you don't get to near the front of the line before the gates open, all the stuff you want is probably going to get sold out. So this is on the train that we're taking. It's just packed with people. Normally you would not see a train so full with people at this hour of the day. There's actually station announcements they make explaining to people, hey, this is a route that a lot of people take to Comiket. Trains are going to be fuller than usual. Live with it, basically. This is at the station where you get off. Again, it's just thick with people. People. Even if you do go later, you are going to be surrounded by people at all times at Comiket. So if you're not a fan of crowds, if you're the type that gets claustrophobic in crowds, I'm not, because I'm like 6'6". So this is my perspective all the time, is just the tops of a bunch of people's heads, and it's not so bad. But yeah, keep that in mind. This is day one. The actual vendors, the people selling these sort of things, there's about 10,000 per day. So that's a lot. And it's split up into 6 major halls, each of which kind of looks like an airplane hangar. It's just a gigantic building, completely open, and it's filled with rows and rows and rows of these tables. So it's like the halls are split into east and west, and then within east and west, each set of tables, each aisle is given a letter, and then each booth is given a number along those letters. So this is oh no, we'll get to this later. Anyway, so on the first day, I wanted to immediately get to Hiromi Sensei, who makes Kaze-san. She had a booth in the West Hall, and I knew because Kaze-san had like an OVA and the manga is very popular and stuff, I was like, oh geez, that could sell out. I want to go there ASAP. Now the East Hall is generally way more popular than the West Hall, so I think that was like strategically a pretty good move. I was able to get in a lot earlier than my friends who were waiting to line up at East Hall. And given that I got Hiromi Sensei's book and got a few other things in West Hall, and then immediately booked it back over to the East Hall, I think I actually got in ahead of them. So that's a pro tip. It's a pro tip to you Comiketters. Sometimes it's quicker to go through West Hall and then steal back to East Hall. I shot this little video. This is what it's like waiting before it starts. This is probably like 7-ish now. 7:30 maybe. There's people everywhere. People. So then, after all of us standing around, the doors finally open way deep inside, and they start taking people in, group by group. So you wait with like a big chunk of people, and then one big chunk at a time, they lead you up to the actual entrance. Otherwise, it just gets like way too insane. There's the moon over Comiket. This is another shot. Here you can see the really iconic building of Tokyo Big Sight. In anime and such, when they're doing like a Comiket scene, this is the establishing shot all the time, is of Big Sight. Unfortunately, you don't actually get to go up into the cool inverted pyramid hall thing. All of the halls that they use are the ground floor ones that are just around here. I don't know what, if anything, Comiket actually uses this space for. I feel like they just don't use it for anything, and yet I can't imagine Big Sight could rent that out to someone else during Comiket, so it's never been clear to me, like, what's going on up there. At any rate, yeah, that's... So this group here, you can see, this one is probably ahead of us. These people got here slightly earlier, so they get to be put into this group, and we're waiting in this group. This looks like another video I shot. Oh yeah, so here you can see a group getting marched by. They're all on their way in. The lucky dogs. We are still waiting for our chance to move. Look at that. Just people, 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 people. Look, as far as you can see. As far as the eye can see, it's people. Like, all the way back there. I'm just getting marched in. Amazing, right? Like, you can say, oh, 500,000 people attend Comiket. And it doesn't maybe sound like a whole lot, like, in comparison to, you know, the number of views a popular YouTube video will get, or the number of people who attend, I don't know, like a big... Oh, whatever. It's a lot of people! My point is that, like, you probably are underestimating just how many people that actually is, and to be in the same space as all of them, to see these mass migrations within that space, to be kind of in a situation where you have to wait for that mass of people for whatever reason, you really start to appreciate just how many people that is. This is getting closer now. You can see the building that was once in the distance is here. Over here we have some volunteers who are always wearing pink hats or pink armbands and other pink accessories to stand out. Comiket is entirely run by volunteers. There is no entrance fee, which is cool for kind of the more casual crowd, maybe, if you want to check it out. And I'm pretty sure the entire, well, yeah, there's some amount of corporate sponsorship. We'll talk about the corporate stuff later. But I think pretty much all of the rental costs and stuff are covered by the booth fees. So every booth, which again is around 30,000 people, pays about $100 as a fee to get their booth. And there's like a lottery system and stuff, like just paying the fee and having something to sell does not guarantee you a booth. That just allows you to, like, I mean, you don't, I'm explaining this extremely poorly. You don't pay if you don't get a booth, but you don't guarantee get a booth under any circumstance. Anyways. So it's cool though. It's all volunteer run. That's the point I was trying to make, is that a volunteer staff does all of the setup and all of the takedown. It's like self-policing, self-administering. It's a pretty amazing system that's been going on for like decades now. I think the first Comiket was in the 70s, so coming up on 40 years. Here's another shot of people heading in. Again, just endless people all the way back here going down these stairs. Another shot. People. So here's, again, part of the volunteer staff. The volunteer staff itself, I think, is pretty huge. I think that would be a level of participation that would be pretty cool to be involved in. Of course, my Japanese is far too limited to even know how to volunteer myself, let alone be able to do anything useful, but it's cool. And I think the only kind of benefit they get is that on the times when they're not volunteering, they have early access on those days. So you probably volunteer 1 day or 2 days, and then you have another day where you get to go in early and make all your purchases before everyone else. And that is like being royalty, you know? Like, that is a privilege that few can attain. That is a level of tranquility and confidence, and that the normal Comiket peon, plebeian running around trying to see everything in time, we can never comprehend. Can never comprehend the freedom of the volunteer. Anyways. So this, as I said, I got very, very close because I was going to the West Hall, which was a little less popular. So this is like the final line. The people at the front of this line are the ultimate in otaku, who may have even been overnighting, for all I know. Overnighting is the somewhat controversial practice of lining up for Comiket the night before. They don't like you doing that. I think it violates a lot of like loitering laws and stuff around how they're renting the property. So what they do in order to make it like technically okay is constantly make you move throughout the night. So they just march you from place to place all night. It's insane. I've only heard this secondhand though, the legend of the overnighters and how hardcore you have to be. But I did pretty okay, you know. I'm only a few rows from entrance here, and it was very exciting when they finally opened the doors. You could begin to buy. Everyone was cheering. Everyone was applauding. Um, they played a little opening theme over the PA system. So this is a shot backwards from where I was standing. So yeah, I did pretty good. Oh, I recorded something here. This guy's got a lot of Idolmaster pins on his volunteer hat. It's pretty interesting. You can tell from these pictures, it's not like everyone is going super hardcore. It's not like everyone is cosplaying and decked out in anime gear. Everyone is kind of dressing very conservatively as if they were just going on a normal day. But what you will see is like lots of kind of regalia, like people who do own merch are going to wear their merch. Just small things, little pins, little cell phone straps, things like that. Because it's hard to comprehend, but you really are all otaku here. Like, like at this stage at least, when to get here you must have woken up at like 6 a.m. Nobody is kind of doing this just why not? Nobody is here just for the memes. And that makes it quite different from a lot of other conventions like this. A lot of other kind of geek spaces, there's usually two tiers of attendees. There's the people that are like really serious about it, and going or not going isn't even a question, and they're there to spend a lot of money. It's like a social thing for them. They're really going to immerse themselves in every aspect of it. And then there's another kind of layer of people that just show up because it is an event, because the other people have kind of built it up to this extent. Now it becomes like a spectacle. Now it becomes something interesting from the outside, just to kind of see what's going on. And maybe you have like a passing interest, but you're not really there with like a mission necessarily. And most cons, these kind of two layers coexist and intermingle and such, but Comiket doesn't feel like that. Comiket, especially at these sort of early stages of the day, and kind of when you look at somebody and they've got a rolling suitcase and it's full of dojinshi, you're like, no, this is serious business. So here we go, we're finally being let in. Everyone applauding. Well, not in this shot, but everyone was applauding. It's pretty cool. This is a shot from within the actual hall. I didn't take too many of these. It's kind of hard to do because you're pretty much constantly moving. There was a situation where I was buying something and my friend was waiting for me and she couldn't actually stand still. So her strategy, she just like found like a little like vortex of people that she could just constantly swirl around until she waited for me to finish buying it. Like, it is really hard to stop, and if you stop, you kind of have to do it for a specific purpose, like to look at a book or to buy something. It's hard to just stop and take a picture, so I didn't take too many pictures. But you can kind of tell what's going on here. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people, and it's a very, very big room, and no matter where you look in this room, it's the same. It's just a lot of people. And invisibly, although you can see the posters, underneath these posters, there's just long rows of tables, each table selling some comics and stuff. The scale of it is just staggering. So what do you do in here? You've got a hit list. This is my hit list. It's beaten up to poop because I kept pulling it in and out of my pocket. Basically, we have 3 columns. Hold on. 3 columns for each day. Can't really get that to focus better, can I? It's unfortunate. And then you've got West or East Hall, although that's not quite necessary because the letters for the rows don't overlap. And then you've got the letter. It goes through the Western alphabet, A to Z, and then through hiragana and katakana. So I want to go to like West Hall, hiragana, re, and then I want to go to table 25B. And that will take me to some artist. So in the days before Comiket, before I left for Japan, I went basically through all of my favorite artists on like Dynasty Scans and some other sites and all the artists I followed on Twitter. And I looked up to see if they were going to be at Comiket, and if so, where their booth was. It was fun, you know, putting together that list, getting excited about seeing all the authors. I made the strange choice of not noting down who was who. I deliberately did that because I thought it would be like fun, like a fun surprise that I turn up at a booth and be like, whoa, it's this guy. But no, that's a terrible idea. You should write down who it is you're trying to see for a few reasons. First off, you're probably going to end up making a more ambitious list than is feasible. It's really hard to get to everywhere. Even if you were the only person in Comiket, even if there wasn't another 200,000 people packed into these halls with you, it would be hard to cover all of that distance and just go see everybody. Plus, with all those 200,000 people, stuff sells out. Stuff can sell out pretty quickly. So you really have to prioritize on the fly. The other thing, and I think I have a picture of this. Well, I don't want to skip too far ahead. So some booths are so popular that the line just to get to some booth, which again is just some independent artist, probably selling some books like this, is so big that it can't even fit in the convention hall. And they have to set up this like proxy line system where you go outside and you find the signboard that indicates you're in line for booth whatever. You line up there, and then they take chunks of that line, like maybe 10 people at a time, march them inside up to the booth, you get to buy your stuff, and then they get the next chunk. So you can wait in lines like that for hours and hours. So it becomes this like really strategic thing, like, okay, that line looks like it'll take about an hour and a half. Should I do that, or should I try to get like 5 or 6 smaller booths? Which one is going to be more worth it to me? Which one do I think is going to be harder to find later? All these sort of kind of planning, traveling salesman type problems where you're like, okay, I can hit this one, and this one if I swing by this part of West Hall. It's complicated. It's kind of like going to Disney World. That's sort of what it reminds me of. In no other way is it like Disney World, though. Instead of fun, relaxing rides or restaurants or, I don't know, parades, you get just in every direction more otaku and more books and more things to buy. Actually, that last part is like Disney World. This is an outdoor area where you can stand underneath the big site. You can see again, sort of in the bottom of this picture, it's full of people. It's just full of people. Everywhere you go, just pretty much full of people. You can find little areas kind of in corners and stuff to sit and eat. We would just bring food from like a convenience store every time. But, you know, generally speaking, you're never more than a few feet away from somebody. This was in another area. So all of what I've been talking about so far is the doujinshi halls. But there's one other hall that's the corporate sponsors, and I'm not quite sure what the relationship is here. Like, I'm not sure who gets to have a booth here, what they have to pay to have a booth, or whatever. But pretty much all the big anime studios, visual novel studios, manga publishers, things like that will have some sort of booth, and they will sell merchandise. Usually it's exclusive merchandise, stuff that will only be sold at Comiket, and it sells out like that. So that's another one that you have to go to super early if you want certain things, or line up for a long time. But the booths are pretty cool. I thought this Type Moon one looked a lot like a YSL store or something. I didn't get a good shot of it. Again, this area, like any other area, is just full of people all the time, and you really cannot stop for a second. So you can see some blurry gold and marble white kind of aesthetic going on here. It was nuts. And then I thought this was crazy too. There was a booth for the Fire Emblem MOBA game. Nintendo is out here at Comiket. I mean, you know, it's intelligent systems and it's a MOBA game that Nintendo is only vaguely involved in, but it's really there. I don't know what's up with that. And here you can see some staff for the one of the booths. So this is kind of the only area in Comiket where the Comiket volunteer staff isn't like absolute. Because the booths do kind of handle their own lineups and stuff and their own payment and things like that. Everywhere else, you know, you're just paying cash to people directly. But at the corporate area, there's like a bit more infrastructure. It's like a little bit more legit, I guess I would say. And then so it's disgusting and it ruins the spirit of Comiket. Nah, just kidding. The corporate area is hype. I've got some cool stuff from there. This is the Type Moon booth again. But after it's sold out of everything, they just rolled down these giant wall scrolls. It was like a really intense contrast of image. Again, you can just see people, 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 people. This is a shot from the walk up to the corporate area back out to the main halls. So this kind of, again, gives you a sense of how big those are. This is the East Hall, I'm pretty sure. So this is like one big mega building, and then there's another one on the other side. People are a little more spread out. This is like later in the day. These are people lined up for one of the interior booths. I don't know what that is. That might be the sign to indicate like this is booth Ma 56-2 or whatever, 56B. And over here you can see again, just pretty much thick with people. And then the ocean. Tokyo Bay. So that was all day one. Day one was kind of the warm-up day. There wasn't as much stuff that I wanted. Day two, I had a better sense of what I was doing. So the first time I went to Comiket, I was like incredibly naive about it. I thought, oh, if I just like wander around, I'm sure I'll see all of the artists that I'm interested in. No, you got to do research. And this time I did do research, but again, I was still naive. This idea of like, oh, I'll just figure out where to go. I'll figure out what's important when I get there. I'm sure I'll just get to see everything that I want to see. Nah. Day two, again, we woke up early. The pink sky of Shinjuku morning. All of these people possibly going to Comiket too. I don't know. Nice, nice. Sure, sure. Oh, no. I'm an idiot. This is that evening. This is the evening of day one. Here we've got my loot from day one. This is the stack that I made. On the top is a limited edition Mezashi comic that I got directly from the booth. I would like to talk about this stuff more. Oh, here you can see the Kaze-san Dojin that Hirome-sensei put out for Comiket. Just very happy to get that. This is the Kimono Friends wall scroll that I talked about, I think, in the first look at this stuff I got video. But all this stuff here, this big pile is on a crate, in a crate, on a boat, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, being slowly shipped back here to Canada. So we'll talk about it eventually, but it's not here with me now. So that was day one. Day two, I waited in East Hall with some friends, or waited for East Hall. This is the traditional Comiket experience of just squatting or sitting on the ground with a gigantic sea of people as far as the eye can see in all directions. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Look at that. Look at all those people. It really is beautiful to me. There's something that really hits you deep in the most basic part of your mammalian brain when you see like a whole lot of people. And if you think back to like Early Man, you know, how many people is Early Man ever going to see at once? 20 maybe? I don't know. 50? I've tried to write short stories on this theme before of the idea of like a volcano going off and then all of these kind of cavemen era people emerging to see what's up, and all of them simultaneously for the first time realizing just how many people there are, and that being this like mind-blowing moment. And then I was going to write that, and then I was going to contrast it with a similar experience of going to like a convention like this and realizing for the first time just how many otaku there are, just how many fellow nerds, fellow people that have your interest there are. in the sense of not just seeing all these people, but moving with them. There's something about the feeling of this huge group all moving together that really feels like you're bonding. And even though you're never going to talk to any of these people, maybe if you're Japanese, it's more of like a chatty environment. But it didn't seem like it. It seemed like everybody was kind of focused and keeping to themselves. Um, Strange things. I saw a woman when we were walking in that was carrying an LCBO bag. The LCBO is the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. So obviously she had been to Ontario or was from Ontario or something like that. But it was just like a mind-blowing little coincidence this morning. But it's like you're thinking about it, and you know, all of you have arrived at this point. All of you have woken up super early, taken the crowded train, marched through long crowds, and sat here in the cold, waiting for the convention to open. And you're all there for kind of the same reason, and yet each and every one of you has different destinations when you get in. Each and every one of you is going to leave the convention with a different set of books and other media with you. And it's like these moments where everyone came from a different place and everyone is going to go to a different place, but there's that moment kind of in between where you all have to walk the same path that I really found very beautiful. And maybe it was the sleep deprivation and the jet lag. Maybe it was just this fervor I had been in where I'm just running from booth to booth, slamming money on the table and snatching up all these books. But it really struck me as beautiful. And I don't know if I'm getting across just what it's like to move in this sort of environment. This is a shot, the interior of West Hall. Again, just trying to show you how many people there are. The Comiket documentary I recommended is good because it's got some nice aerial shots that'll give you the full extent of the scope, but it's insane. Like, it's just mind-boggling, the number of people. This is a video I took. We found a little spot to eat lunch, and I just wanted to show you the relentlessness, the onslaught of people just constantly flowing past you. And then, I don't know if you saw, but in the distance, this is the stairway up to the corporate area, and it's also just nonstop people. So it's not that this is a busy hallway, this is just any hallway. I gotta say though, it's some of the best people watching I've done in my life. Mall people watching, nothing. Oh, there's like a girl just like Raymond right at the end there. Mall people watching is nothing on this. Not even airport people watching can compete with Comiket people watching. It's just, it's beautiful. All these nerds. All these nerds out here to buy something. Or if not to buy something, then to dress up as somebody. If not to buy something, then to sell something or to see a friend who's got a nerdy interest. And maybe there are just some people that are there to kind of gawk at it, to see the spectacle of it and the size of it. And I recommend that. Like, if that's the only reason you want to go, I think that's still definitely worth going. If you're watching this channel, that's probably not the case, though. You probably have lots of good reasons to go. And, like, so yeah, maybe there are people like that, but I don't think so. I don't think there's that many. Because it's like, if otaku aren't going to be here, where are they going to be? This is the biggest event. This is where a lot of the biggest artists come. This is where you get the things that later become artifacts of otaku history debut here. It's kind of like, I've described it like this before to my friends. I think it's a good analogy. You know, the end. Well, I haven't played an MMO, so forgive me if I'm saying something stupid here, but I think in an MMO, once you get to the final level, like once you've maxed out your level, there's like end game areas that open up where throughout the game, like maybe you'd see a high level character here and there, but once you get to the end game area, it's just literally all the top echelon of people. And the content is harder, and there's gigantic monsters around every corner or whatever. But it's like you've made it. Like once you're there, you're like, there's nowhere else to go but this. That kind of sensation is very powerful too. Okay, so this is day 3. Again, it just looks like a whole bunch of other people. But everyone here is a different class of person. We've moved into another area of excellence. I'm not sure if you can tell what separates this entire crowd from every other crowd we've seen thus far. So we've seen a lot of crowd shots up until this point. This is the artist's entrance. So I've mentioned it quite a few times, but if you haven't heard, a friend of mine that I traveled with got his book accepted into Comiket. He got a booth at Comiket. Blam! This is my circle registration ticket, which I used to get in through the artist's entrance. My dishwasher made a loud noise and it surprised me. So day 3, I went with him in that direction. You veer off from the normal crowd quite early, and I did not see a single other Western person that entire time. Usually at Comiket, it's pretty rare, but you will see other Gaijin squads, as we called them. Sometimes I'd see them like sticking up above the crowd with me, kind of make eye contact. But it's rare. It's rare. It's overwhelmingly Japanese people or people that I assume are Japanese. And then when I went through the artist entrance, it was literally just me. And I don't know. I thought a lot about like how I would come across trying to sell doujinshi as a gigantic foreigner. I thought people would for better or worse see it as kind of a novelty. But everyone just ignored me. Everyone completely ignored me. Everyone was just very focused on what they were doing. So that's fine. Of course that's fine. But I don't know. I thought it was funny. For a long time I thought when I was going through this way, I was like, I bet everyone thinks that I'm just like being baka gaijin and I just have no idea where I'm going. And I don't realize that I was supposed to go back in with the general public. But then I made it in, of course. I got my ticket. This is another shot. It's like a rare angle of the big site. They kind of make all the artists circle around back so you can go in through the halls in the direction that isn't going to be facing people. This is within. This is when people are getting set up. It's pretty exciting. So this is by far the least crowded I have ever seen this hall. And it's still pretty dang crowded. It's still like a lot of people. And this is only artists. Like this is all people who are here to sell something. But this kind of gives you a better idea of what it looks like. So here you can see me. This is the me aisle and there's the mu aisle. And then each of these booths, you can see there's big stacks of books on them. They're all selling stuff. We realized like very late the night before that we didn't have a tablecloth. So we went to Don Quixote, which is this bizarre Japanese store that I'll explain in depth later. That's open 24 hours is the point. See if they had a tablecloth. They didn't, but a lot of booths didn't have tablecloths. So, you know, that's fine. You can see a lot of people have posters. We had a poster. And pretty much as soon as this phase starts, you can kind of buy stuff. Like if you see somebody has their stuff all set up, you can be like, oh, hey, you want to just sell me one? There's more of like an official period after everyone is assumed to be set up where all of the artists will kind of run around and buy each other's things. So again, you get a leg up on the competition with the exclusivity of this artist pass. So that was exciting. I got to get Daioshin, who's this Toho artist who did like Idolmaster stuff. Luckily, he did Idolmaster stuff because it meant that his booth was right next to my friend's booth. His like limited edition set, I think, sold out extremely fast. Got that. He's really good. He makes like very strange gag comics. Daioshin, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Anyways. This is another booth of the setup. Oh, there's his stuff. You can't really make it out. But that's my boy. Already people, look at this. People are waiting to buy. So you get 3 circle passes for each artist that's registered to have a booth. So it's kind of like strategic that you have one or two people manning the booth at the start, and then you send other people out to buy stuff. um, Everything involving Comiket has this sort of feeling of strategy and deployment and such. I remember when my friend showed up on the second day. I kept referring to her as my tactical weapon because I would make her stand in line for stuff. We covered a lot of ground though. We got a lot of good stuff that way, even though I felt so terrible. Like, she wasn't interested in buying anything for herself. She just likes going to the event and like hanging out with people. So I was like, all right. So this is my view selling the book. This is my friend's book. This is another friend of his who apparently, so the third circle ticket went to a friend of my friend's who helped us set up a lot of stuff, who kind of like knew the ropes of Comiket. And this was like another mutual friend of theirs who, the friend who set up for us, said he had been out drinking until really late the night before and just did not wake up for Comiket. So we sold his books too. There was like a real mismatch. This is like fake Grand Order stuff, and it's very lewd. And my friend's stuff is Idolmaster Cinderella Girls, and it's very wholesome and cute. Whatever. You sell them if you got them. So this was my view, manning the booth. Here I am, manning the booth. Isn't that crazy? Oh, Lord. Oh, man. If I could send this picture back in time to myself and be like, do you know in the future, you're really going to like Idolmaster and you're going to learn how to draw? I'd be like, that doesn't sound right. But if I said, you're going to make a friend that can do all that and you're going to get to work as a booth, I'd be like, all right, that's cool. That's cool. I'm looking forward to that. And it was cool. It was really cool. Again, the fact that I looked very different from all of the other artists didn't seem to impact people at all. Single-mindedly, people would just come over. This is the sample book, lookbook. Try to encourage them to read the book. You know, they'd flip through it. They'd maybe buy it, maybe not. Whatever. A few times people would come over looking for my friend. They were friends with him through Twitter or whatever. If he was out, I would explain in broken Japanese that he was out and take a message or whatever. I manned the booth for like a big chunk of the morning, and then my friend came back and we swapped. We had some other friends who were also there that day that came and took shifts too. It all worked out quite well. The first few days I went, like the first 2 days I went with both like pretty hardcore friends. And then the third day, all of my other friends that I was traveling with came out, again, just kind of more for like the novelty, although I think they all bought like a few kind of just souvenir-y type things. Yeah, dude, I did it. I sold books at Comiket. What the hell? This doesn't look real. It looks like Photoshop or something. What am I doing there? What am I doing there? Why are the pull strings for my hood inside my hoodie? Why is this significant, historically significant picture marred by this this bizarre mistake? It doesn't matter. So yeah, I did it. Oh, I took a picture of this. Again, a very blurry picture because you can't stop moving. This is an example of just the kind of strangeness you see at Comiket. So this is a section that's all like industrial stuff. And I don't mean industrial, the genre of music. And I don't mean industrial, a hypothetical genre of doujinshi. But I mean, like, power lines. Like, people who are really into electrical infrastructure, say, and they go out and take amateur photography of it, and then they compile a book of those, plus little blurbs about what the pictures are of, and sell it at Comiket. And then this person took it a step further in a totally incomprehensible direction by making the cover of the book a reference to the SICP. The structure and integration of computer programs, which has become kind of a meme, but like a very obscure meme. So I don't think he was doing it for the meme necessarily. But who knows? Who can say? And it was sold out, unfortunately. I probably would have picked one up. just for the meme. Yeah, see, this is where it became a meme, is that people kept photoshopping anime girls holding it. But I thought this was just like a Western meme. It would surprise me if this meme made it to Japan. What do I know, man? This is what I understood. When I saw this, and when I saw that it had sold out, when I saw other people, like other kind of just middle-aged men bumming around and talking to this guy, presumably about electrical infrastructure. I think that's when this one was on. I don't remember. But about whatever. I was like, I can never comprehend Comiket. No one can ever comprehend what Comiket means to each and every individual. And yet, you can comprehend it through that huge incomprehensibility. There's a moment where you walk up to somebody's booth, you're like a fan of theirs maybe, or maybe you just were struck by the art and you wanted to check it out. And you flip through it, like, this looks great. Give them your 500 yen or whatever. There's a connection there that's unique and very special and very beautiful, where it's like, you got to think of how many layers of niche. Like, let's say I'm buying like a Toho doujinshi. Let's say I'm buying this. All right? Think about the layers that are necessary to comprehend what this is that I'm looking at. What percentage of the world even knows what Toho is, let alone cares about certain characters within Toho, that they're interested in how they'll be depicted this time and how the relationships between those characters will play out. And I think that's why derivative works are so great, because there is this shared base that you both must appreciate the original intellectual property, be it Toho, Idolmaster, Fate, whatever. So you already have that connection. And then, because there's that jumping off point, it allows the author to express so much more of their like idiosyncrasies and their own kind of passions and desires and like trying to bring out the weirdness of it, right? Like you're expressing something unique about yourself with your art. But because there's that shared base, you don't have to take any steps to normalize it. You don't have to make it any more accessible, because you already have this access point that somebody else is already really deep into like Toho with you already. So it's like you share this incredibly deep, strange part of yourself. A part of yourself that you'll probably not be able to share with family members or romantic partners necessarily, or even some of your closest friends. It's like a weird part of you that connects with like this weird creative part of someone else. And for just that moment where you're buying it, overcoming any sort of language barrier, overcoming any sort of generational gap or any cultural gap or anything like that, you know that you share that part, that like weird organ. It's so cool. It's so beautiful. There's nothing else like it. And you know, you can buy this sort of stuff later. There's doujinshi shops that will sell secondhand doujinshi, or will sell old unsold things from Comiket or other conventions, or will even just sell doujinshi straight from the author, that they turn around and sell them directly to the stores. But it's different. It's not the same than from buying it from the actual artist. I don't know. And I had some good experiences too, kind of chatting with artists, with my broken Japanese and with my inability to stand still in the massive tide of people. But you don't have to say much to really, for you to really understand this connection. Most of what needs to be said is being said just from the fact that you're buying that book. So, yeah, it's pretty beautiful. It's really beautiful. So this is the end of the last day. Packing stuff up, putting it away, folding up all the tables, the tens of thousands of tables. They drive the truck right into the building. This again gives you a sense of the enormous scale of this place. So they can load up the tables and such. Because of course my friend needed to pack up and such, we stayed right until the end. It's the first time I had done that. Usually I leave, you know, basically when stuff stops being for sale. But I was really glad I did. It was a unique experience seeing it end. They did like a big cheer with like a synchronized clap thing where I, like an idiot, went too far, and my friend explained later that like no, 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 everyone knew. That's like a traditional clap. Um, it was also New Year's Eve. Oh, I showed a little video here. No, not Pascal. Oh yeah. I didn't go to the same university. I went to another one in the same city. What am I talking about? I don't remember having this conversation at all. At any rate, yeah, you can see kind of the activity that's going on here. It's very well coordinated, very efficient. I think most of the volunteers have probably been volunteering for years and years and years. It's like, it's obviously a pretty crazy thing. It's obviously something out of the ordinary in every imaginable way. And yet, because it is twice a year, and because a lot of the people that go to every one, there is a sense of routine. There is a sense of um, comfort that I think comes from that routine. And it really feels like a market. Like if you really want to go for like a cliched picture of people going down to the lively, bustling farmers market early in the morning, picking out fruits and vegetables and chatting with the local producers, and you can kind of picture Comiket in that light. And I think it's actually closer to something like that than it is to like, I don't know, like a Western anime convention, like Anime North or something. The sort of spectacle that comes with like a Western con just isn't here. Everything is more just about, you know, buying and selling comics in like the most efficient way possible. And really the insanity of it, the depravity and the sense of just running around with your head off, is more just from the scale of it. It's more just something that emerges as you expand this market larger and larger and larger and larger and larger. But the tone of it, the feel of it on the smaller levels, like within the small niche communities, within the conversations between artists and such, there it feels very pure. There it feels like nothing has changed since the 70s and they were running these and 300 people would show up. You know, and now 4 orders of magnitude later, I think that same spirit is still in Comiket. It's beautiful. It was New Year's Eve too. Everyone was wishing each other Happy New Year, saying good work. Otsukare-sama. Well, I meant to find, we took a group photo when we were leaving, but whatever. Maybe that's rude to my friends to show them in a group photo in a video, but whatever. Our group photo was taken by a man cosplaying as a red army soldier. You can do stuff like that at Comiket, you know? All but 2 days of the year in Japan, you gotta be pretty normal. It's a pretty conservative society in many ways. Unless you really want to ostracize yourself, you gotta kind of stay within the lines. And then Comiket, you can do whatever you want. You can buy whatever you want, you can sell whatever you want. You can dress however you want. It's great. Oh, show a little video. Taking a picture. Well, I want to take a picture. Yeah, that was pretty great. I enjoyed Comiket the first time I went. That was summer Comiket. It was pretty brutal. It was so hot. So very hot. And I more just kind of did it for like the masochism. I don't think I really felt like I got it. And this time, as I said, it's more just that I realized you can't get it. You can't ever feel like you understand what Comiket means to people. All you can say is what it means to you, and then try to multiply that in your head by 500,000. And if you can do that, Even if it's just for a little bit, if you can do that when you're deep in that sea of people, it's a pretty powerful experience. And this is the haul. This is the final haul of what I got. That's a lot of books. And I got some other stuff too. And I would love to talk about these books, but they are, as I said, somewhere on the Pacific Ocean. So that's it. That's my time at Comiket. I think I said most of the things I wanted to say. I'm also putting together, I wrote a lot when I was in Japan, and I'm putting together a book of things that I wrote while I was in Japan, so if there's something I forgot to say here, if there's something I wanted to talk about, I'll probably talk about it there. But I hope I inspired you that if you're in Japan, you might want to check it out, even though I maybe made it seem like a bit of a slog. And again, if you're not good with crowds, maybe not. I really recommend checking out that documentary again, Secret World of Comiket. That gives a pretty nice insight onto what it's like. There's also a lot of porn there. I didn't mention that at all, but that's fine. Alright, next video will be on either food or shopping. We'll see. Okay, bye-bye.